I would like to welcome everyone, and I'm going to reintroduce Melita Westerlund. We're here at her studio in Bar Harbor, Maine. We have done shows together at the College of the Atlantic, and I say we've done them together because she has helped me so much. I've curated these shows at the Blum Gallery and also on the grounds of the college, and Melita is always right there to help do whatever needs to be done. And it's really been a pleasure working with her over the years. She works in so many materials that whenever I make the list, I've always left something out, but really accomplished in steel welding, working with aluminum, working with handcrafted paper, and wood, stone. When I think of Melita Westerlund, I think of festivity and I think of color. And it's no surprise that she has been awarded so many commissions at public schools and libraries. Before each one of these studio tours, the artists work very hard to kind of straighten up their studio, but probably no one as hard as Melita, who admitted to me that it was really the first time she's cleaned her studio in 30 years. But you're going to see the benefit of all of that work.
I was born in Finland, and our summers were always spent on the countryside, and there was nothing really to do because it was out in the woods, so you had to be creative in some ways. And so we actually started to work with the natural elements, pine cones, sticks and moss, and creating these kind of village scenes. And my sister, who is a year older, we did it together, and she became a sculptor as well. Our mom was very creative in terms of color and aesthetics and design, but she wasn't an artist. But I think it started from her interest in design. and I didn't have any role models really in the artistic world. I didn't know anyone who was an artist or painter, sculptor, nothing. It was more acceptable as a woman in the 50s, 60s was to be a painter. So after painting for a while, for some years, I felt that it wasn't for me. I really wanted to do three-dimensional work. You know, the important part was actually my master's degree in sculpture in Buffalo, New York. My master's exhibit was in bronze, and it was based on my experiences actually in Africa. So it always reverts back, the ideas come from the past, but then you work in present with what you have. And then came the opportunity for my husband to teach at COA, College of the Atlantic, and so that's how we came. And we thought, oh, this will be a 4-year stint, and then we'll move on from there. And sure enough, we have stayed here for almost 40 years. I have lived in many places, and depending on where I lived, I would use the materials available. And so with those materials that I had available, I started to do welding work. So it took me a long time to come to welding, and now I feel that I'm basically mainly a welder. It definitely surprises people when I tell them I'm a welder, and I have done some practical welding, and one lobsterman had problems with his scalloping equipment, and he asked me if I could weld some of his netting that he used for gathering scallops, and I said sure. So I've done welding on my truck and practiced welding thin metal, but mainly I think people are respecting me because I do the welding, and I actually like it a lot. And to me, welding is almost like sewing. It's a second nature. I don't think about it. I just put it together. And truly, it is very creative, and it's starting from the ground up pretty much. You have to have a foundation, and then you can fly from there. You know, become whimsical if you want, or creative. But it is the fundamental expression is the gravity, and deal with that aspect, and then it's the creative process from there. I spent every summer in Finland, and no summer is without Finland. In Finland, I don't have my welding equipment, but I have a wonderful studio that feels almost like being outside when I work. And last summer, I worked with natural material and built this 7-meter long fence out of bark and sticks and moss and very different. But that was a wonderful experience, and I was totally obsessed by this fence that I was working on. So here, this is more of a welding studio. It's where I worked in the winter, even if it's freezing cold. But I manage. Yeah, it's different. Work is different here and there. I was interested in hand-cast paper and never really taken a class, but it was popular in Buffalo, for instance. They did all kinds of paper stuff. And so when I came here, I started to kind of finalize this process that I was interested in, and came up with a fairly simple solution that worked. So I had made a few of these pieces, and then I took a class at Haystack, and there was Bernie and his wife were teaching at the time. And I realized that, wow, my technique, even if it was very homemade, was actually quite advanced. And so I felt good about making these pieces because they are fairly durable. That I have, that I work with. So the size is this for the larger ones, and then I can divide it up into smaller sized pieces. And I mix the pulp very simply, and yes, and yeah. So this is the mixing. We beat it into a thin, very thin consistency, water, and then I add methyl cellulose to as a glue, natural glue. It binds the fiber, and I add pigment to it. It's a special pigment for paper, and there is a binding material too that binds the color to the fiber, and then I build it on this screen, and then after that, when it's built, I press it, and I have all these concrete blocks. So everything I do is very physical. So these blocks, I have about 20 of these blocks that I put on top of the paper and press it overnight. And then after that, so it's a labor-intensive process. So after that, I dry it. I have drying racks. My Ultra Touch, which is my coral work, was really started. I wanted to make a statement, my environmental statement. I thought this is important. The corals are disappearing, and so I found this material and went to visit a woman who was building her house, and she used this special recycled cotton material. And I asked for a small amount of that to experiment with. And so it's totally, I think, unique to what I'm doing with my coral work, using this, that became a commercial, industrial product actually. And it's a cotton fiber that's recycled jeans. And sometimes you can find zippers in it and buttonholes, but
it takes the dye. It starts blue,
the dye,
but it takes the
yeah,
dye.
yeah. There was some experimenting to get it. So I experimented with this, just thinking about how to use it for my coral work, and then experimenting with dyeing it and how to apply it, and it's all trial and error. Yeah. If you want to use unconventional materials, that's what it is. You have to experiment, and yeah, when you are determined that this will work somehow, and you have the intuition. So it's mainly intuition, I think, that drives you, that this will eventually work. Then you find your way, and it becomes more free-flowing, and you understand the material and the possibilities in it. I hope everyone sees them differently. I hope that there is their own personal ideas of art and relationship to art that comes through. Of course, I want to be able to, with my choral work, for the viewer to understand the difficulties behind saving the coral reefs, and that would be interesting to me to convey that message. But other than that, I think that especially with the abstract work, that people see different things in them. And so there is not a clear message, but it's should be a visual experience, personal experience to everyone.